Hello, everybody. Welcome back to my storytelling channel. Happy Halloween Horror Fest. Today, I'm here to read to you a story I wrote called The Dragon Bride. This is a fictional story. I invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy. The echo of the sound was deep throughout the cave as I walked barefoot across the land, my body cloaked in what seemed like a foreign dress, my hair piled upon my head in a strange setting with a heavy crown. The strange jewelry on my wrists were bangles that looked like human teeth, and the fragrance that hit my nose was getting stronger as I walked forward. There were torches dimly lit around me, and I could hear the wind whisper through the hollowness of the cave. I had been here before, in my dreams, always searching a way out of this trail. It was deep and twisting like a maze that wanted me to remain inside its mouth forever. After feeling as if I was ready to give up, I stumbled upon a strange opening that led me into a chamber that held a large bed with silk golden sheets and was littered with lotus flowers the size of my head. The perfume from it made the raw scent from earlier disappear gently, and I was overwhelmed with a deep love for the setting in front of me. I walked to touch one of the lotus, and it hissed, closing up its petals, and I took a few steps backward. "Do you like it?" A voice echoed from behind me, and I turned around to find a young man entering from what looked like a hidden door. He had long, dark hair to his shoulders, his face a perfection of handsomeness that made my heart ache with need, and his eyes held a strange power over me. He wore this strange foreign tribal outfit that looked like it was sewn by expert hands. "Who are you?" I asked. Smiling, he replied, "I'm the one who you have sought time and again." "Am I not, Lily?" How did he know my name? He came toward me, and I felt pulled to walk to him. The aroma of him made my heart pump with life, and when I reached him, he took one look into my eyes, and immediately my knees went weak. He caught me and held me in his strong arms, bending down lower to graze my cheeks with his lips. "I have searched for you for a lifetime, and today you are finally here in my arms. What shall I do to keep you here in my chambers and make you my eternal bride?" he whispered. I felt my breath go weak, and I replied with a faint voice, "I am yours for the taking." "I am very pleased to hear that, Lily." I jerked awake. My bedsheets were drenched with my sweat as my fan whirled above me in a dying breath. The time on my dresser told me I was late and slept past my alarm again. I sat up in bed, exhausted, as I rubbed my eyes, feeling as if the world around me had cheated. Even the hot shower didn't help me, and it only made me wallow in aching pain from awakening from a powerful dream. It wasn't the first time I've had this dream. It has been happening more and more now that I'm older and past the age of marriage. When I walked down the stairs, my mother was rolling dough for sesame balls, her arms colored with the white flour and her blue apron with spots of dried yeast. She looked up at me with her pretty brown eyes and stopped what she was doing. "Lily, kapo okay na? Why you look so tired?" she asked. The Monglish we joked around the house as a dialogue only we could understand and perfect. Normally, this question would have me laughing, but today it left me feeling sad. "Mom, go okay, ma. I'm just tired." "You know you're late? You're supposed to go to work half-hour ago.""started for the door. "Going now, Nia." She yelled for me to drive safe, but her voice is already clouded as I mount the door. My beat-up Toyota starts up fine today. Some days I have to crank it and let it yell and groan before it will run. I'm 21 years old, college dropout, and the most disappointing child of my parents' 8 kids. I'm the middle, the one who seemed to have been ignored and forgotten while the oldest and youngest and those in between got their love and attention. I felt as if no one heard me, and so, to be heard and seen, I created trouble after trouble for everything. My younger siblings all told me I was a failure, and my older siblings told me I was a poor example. My father was tight-lipped, and my mother complained at every available moment. I was lost. I had no light to shine to anyone, and I felt as if my insides were mismatched so much that I felt I had a third intestine while everyone else had a heartbeat. I worked at the local ice cream shop cleaning the empty canisters. It was a poorly paid job, but I didn't want to talk to people, and I wanted to just be able to get paid something so I could get my parents off my back. At the job, everyone ignored me just like at home. But here, I got a paycheck, and I got free ice cream. I guess it was all right. These canisters are not easy to clean. I have to use a power spray with extremely hot water and aim at the places where frozen ice cream have gathered in. And then I have to dry it in this heated shelf for half an hour before I place it on the shelf for reuse. It takes me the whole 10 hours of my shift, and when I am done, I am exhausted and bitter. Who the hell eats that much ice cream? Apparently, the entire world did, and the owner made a shitload of money. I was just one of the little employees who clocked in and clocked out. My favorite place in the world? The meadow field by the flower near the ice cream shop. When my shift ends, I come here to lay in the field and look up at the sky, listening to the water sing me a rhythm. Sometimes I end up falling asleep, and when I wake up, it's dark already, and the stars are shining. I love it here, and I can be free from the reality of painful resentment from my own family, from the job I work at, from life failures. I hate myself because I know that I can do better, yet I can't seem to do it. It's pure laziness because I know I will have to work harder, but I like the comfort I am in. So I choose to be the me I am today and just simply live day to day, the basics of surviving and existing. When I get home that night, it's past 10 and everyone has eaten dinner, and my younger siblings are playing games in the room while my parents are nowhere to be found. I shower, and then I slip into the bedsheets, where I awaken to his voice. "Lily," he whispered. I jerked awake, and I am lying in the bed in the chamber with lotus flowers. He is watching me, his eyes holding a gaze that drugs me. I am again dressed strangely, and yet I feel as if this is the real me, the me no one understands. "You never told me your name," I asked. "My name is anything you want it to be," he replied. I frowned, confused, but also a bit giddy at the thought of naming him. "I shall call you Jack." "Why Jack?" "Because I fell in love with Jack when I watched Titanic." He smiled, and then suddenly he took the form of Leo DiCaprio when he played the role. I stood up and reached for him, touching him as he smiled at me. "What do you think? Real enough for you? You jump, I jump, right?" I laughed and threw my arms around him, holding him, inhaling his scent. When I pulled back, he was his normal self again. The illusion disappeared, and he took my hands, walking with me to the field I always visited. The wind blew through my hair, and he took me to stand on the river bend. "You love this place, don't you?" he asked. "I do. It's the most majestic place in the world. I can never give this place up. Everything about it here has called me to live here from the beginning. When I am here, when I am here, I can forget about the pain and disappointment I've given others. Here, I'm simply a winner." He took me into his arms. "What if I asked you to stay here with me? Would you?" I turned around to look at him. "Where would we live if we stayed here? I mean, inside your cave?" "It's not really a cave. It's a hidden gem from the human eye. But I don't trust you fully yet to show you my true self. One of these days, though, I will, if you and I continue to see each other. Promises made must have something exchanged. What will you exchange with me today?" He thought a moment. "How about a hug?" I smiled as he took me into his arms, but something about the embrace made my skin react. I tried to pull away, but he held me in place. Something was scratching at my flesh, making me feel as if it was biting into my skin. I began to move, and a sob came through my lips. "Ow! You're hurting me. Stop! Stop!" I woke up in bed. It was early in the morning, and my alarm clock hadn't gone off yet. My midsection was hurting like crazy, and I was groaning as I got out of bed. I turned the lights on and lifted my shirt to find a deep red cut that looked like it had been done by something with a knife. I was bleeding, and it looked as if something had tried to wrap itself around me. I fell to the ground, my body shaking, and I went into shock. I woke in a hospital bed, the beeping of the IV machines next to me with needles inside my veins. The gown that covered nothing was over my body with those sheets that scratched my skin. My mother was sleeping on the chair beside me. Nia, I whispered. Huh? She said as she opened her eyes and sat up, rubbing her face. You awake? No, but I'm thirsty. She got up and walked to the pitcher to pour me what looked like hot water. I hated hot water, and when she brought it to me, she gave me a warning look. Fine, I thought as I took it and drank some. The warmth of it went down into my body, and I guess she was right. It did relieve some pain in me. The doctor, an older gentleman with a head of gray hair, walked in carrying a clipboard. He smiled at my mother and I, and then tapped my arm. Hello, Miss Lee. How are you? I'm Dr. Kenneth. You gave your parents quite a scare. How are you feeling? I am sore. I have inspected your wound, Miss Lee, and because you are an adult, I am asking if you'd like your mother here with me as I tell you what I found. I looked at my mother and then I nodded. Go ahead, doctor. Your wound is self-inflicted. Is there anything going on that you'd like to share with me regarding your life? I can get a professional to talk to you to help sort out what may be too heavy for you. I laughed. Are you telling me that I did this to myself? Did you? My mother asked. I turned to her. No, of course not. I'm not crazy, Nia. Dr. Kenneth put up his hands. Okay, I didn't say you were crazy. Let me ask you another question. Do you sleepwalk? No, never. Yes, my mother said. We both turned to her, and I was in shock as she looked at me and then again at the doctor. She sleepwalk. What? I asked in shock. She does. Have you caught her? He asked. Nodding, my mother replied, Yes. I catch her in the kitchen one time. Actually, 2 times. She not say a word, but she walking like she going somewhere. And when I shake her, she no look at me. Her eye open, but she look corner of the house. Dr. Kenneth turned his chair toward her and asked, When was this? My mother thought for a moment and then she replied, 1 time last month and 1 time last week. Last week? And you didn't tell me? I asked. She said with anger, and then she turned to the doctor. Sorry. She was mad when I asked her, so she no answer me. I remember the confrontation as I rubbed my face. She's right. She asked me one morning if I remembered anything from last night, and I told her to stop pestering me. Do you remember anything? Shaking my head, I replied, No, I don't. I know that I didn't do this to myself, though. I'd like to keep you overnight for observation, Miss Lee. If you're okay with it, I'd like to invite the hospital therapist to come speak to you later this afternoon. Sure. Okay, I'll talk to you both later. Thank you. He got up and left as my mother and I exchanged glances in the deep silence that formed between us. And then she got up and came to stand beside me. Lily, 個本部所報得處理那面菜，到我被怒鬧用你個片熱氣，但係做俾食了咧，不要莫得呀的只個只開過多呢。No, Mom, I'm okay. Just leave me alone. 吵得等要嘛。I pulled the blanket over my head and she let out a depleted breath before she walked out the door. When I heard the door close, I shoved the blankets up and thought about what had happened. I remember the dream where the man was holding me and it hurt. I couldn't remember what I called him in the dream, only that he was handsome and that he spoke with a charm and I felt safe with him. I felt exhausted as if I hadn't slept at all, even though I felt like all I did was sleep. Was something wrong with me? Was I experiencing something strangely not within this world? My mother walked in again, but this time an older woman with gray hair walked in with her. She wore this bandao printed jacket and her smile was soft and kind. Tại, nói của tuần sai bắt đây nè. Có sĩ sai nữ sai, nhờ trong lý cả vì tên nữ bình chỉ xin năng lý nè. The lady walked to me and offered her hand, and I gave mine to her. She flipped my hand back and forth, and then she smiled gently at me. Mình sai, có mấy tuần xe trừ chỉ xin năng, có bảo bảo, của tôi nói có tuần xe trừ, bỏ tỏ lúc ở trong tôi là. Olinda, I asked, Then she took a string from her pocket, put it to her lips, and blew 3 times. And then she began to tie it around my wrist, chanting this foreign dialect I had never heard before. After, she tapped my hand and said to my mother, "Xin chai ma, chi wa da chi, thọ lo chế là ni ke hu của tôi mà tôi than nên call." I was in the field again, and the wind was rougher today, blowing against me as if angry. The sky wasn't blue and clear, it was dark and gloomy with angry thundering. I was afraid, and I saw him walking toward me wearing all black with a long, thick green cloak behind him. "You," I said as he neared me. "Jack." But to my disappointment, he stopped 4 feet away from me, not coming any closer. "Jack, come here." "I can't," he said. "You will hurt me if I come any closer." Frowning, I said, "Hurt you? How?" His eyes fell to the red bracelet around my wrist. I brought up my hand to look, and instead of the string the lady had tied on me, I found a steel red bangle. I extended my hand toward him, and he backed away from me. "Is this what you're afraid of?" I asked. He immediately brought the cloak to shield him, and then he disappeared before my eyes. I called after him, and he didn't return. When I woke, the machine beside me was beeping quietly, and I was exhausted. I looked at the red string on my wrist and began to cry. The sound of the bells jingling from the shaman lady beat into my heart, and it left me shaking. I was sitting in the corner watching her jump on her bench, and I felt a deep vibration in my soul. Her words she was singing seemed to cut my veins open, and I was bleeding. I grabbed my head and began to cry as the darkness took over my sight. I woke to the sound of birds chirping and a river singing beside me. I turned and found a young woman with long black hair sitting with me. I didn't recognize her, but she was wearing the same printed bandao jacket the older woman did. "Có ya lần tư?" I asked. "Cô ya tự cho con mù chế. Là tổ của tề chế của chú con ba cho con mù." She extended her hand to me, and I got up, moving away from her. A red horse was behind her, and that horse had wings. I could hear a lot of loud singing, and when I turned around, I saw Jack standing at the top of the hill with a golden kingdom behind him. "Jack," I said as I began to run toward him. "You can't go there," the lady said. "It's not where you belong. You must return home with me." I turned around to face her. "Why? I love it here. This is where I should be." She stood up and extended a hand to me. "Take my hand." "Lily," I heard Jack called out to me. I turned toward him, and he opened his palm to me. His handsome face broke into a smile. "Remember what you told me? You said you lived a very silent life in a world that didn't always know that you existed. You said you wanted someone to love you as if you were the very breath that he took. I can do that. I can give you a life where there is no pain and no fighting to be seen or heard. You don't need a reason for me to love you. I already do." "Min Tsai," the lady said. I turned to her, and she still had her hand outstretched to me. "Có nể cái gì thì tỏ có mà. Luôn đủ lúc tế nào trong chưa giả lý ý từng trả đu nhau cho hậu có lúc kể lỡ. Lúc nào cũng trẻ tao có, con đọc của mù cho nể cho gì nữa mà." I looked at my hands, and I saw the bracelet she had put on me. Very slowly, I took it off and threw it on the ground. "Có mà hai đứa của nể của gì tia, của lung gờ. Của mù oan nhá sư chưa mù có tư. Do hai tia, của nể của gì nhau của. Còn gỡ trong mù sai luôn tu. Do luôn tu, chán tu thì, chỉ của nhỏ luôn gì. Do nấu tư, luôn tu nó, nấu trò hoan tì, chỉ của lúc xưa mò kì tên dòng gỡ. Nè nâng nè dai, có thể của cho kế tàu là gì lì nó sơ mò. Có mù có kế, của mù của kế, có cho chuộc của chi tá có." The shaman lady began crying as the bells continued to ring on her fingers. And in a deep, mournful voice, she said, "Cô nhớ thế cô gì, giờ nên do cô này kể, trong một sai luôn tu, sẽ cả là nà. Sao là thay cô kể, cô yêu muốn thiệt cô gì cũng gỡ xin mò." Nông ta này kể chỉ sát kính chỉ sân trái, mình chưa mình bên là nhóm bom mình va mình cháy, còn nhớ trôi lý rễ có lẽ chùa mà lợi ít sẽ lý ít xin mò.